Have you ever heard of the word intercession? That means to pray on the behalf of, as a go-between between God and another person and their situation. Well, Abraham did that famously in the story we'll talk about today, and there's much to learn. So listen in.
Welcome to Everyday Truth with Kurt Skelly. We believe the Bible is true and relevant to everyone, everywhere, every day. If today's conversation is a help to you, take a moment to leave a review or share it with a friend. Thanks for listening. Now, let's join Kurt for today's episode.
Hey friends, welcome back. Genesis chapter 18 today in our copies of the Word of God. I promised you that we would talk about a really dramatic story in the Bible, and one that picks up a story that we've already been following. And one of the many things I love about the Bible is that a lot of times we split screen. The Bible split screens. It talks about something that's happening over here, then something that's happening over here, or we'll pick up one storyline and then come back to it later. And that's what happens here, because we're going to talk today about Lot and the predicament that Lot got himself into. So when you think about Lot, you think about Abraham's brother, Haran, his son, Lot, and that was Abraham's older brother. Lot was probably, nearly as we can tell, about 30 years younger than Abraham. And we know that Abraham was 75 when he entered into the land of promise, so Lot would have been, about maybe 45, something like that. And we know very soon after Abram at that point, and Lot had entered the land of promise, a famine ensued, and they went to Egypt for just a short time, came back. So let's add 2 or 3 years to that. So Lot is probably about 48, 49, maybe close to 50 years of age when he separates from Abram, in that famous case in Genesis 13, where Lot chooses the well-watered plain toward Sodom and pitches his tent that way. We talked about that. And then, of course, the episode where Lot was part of the kidnapping and went up to Dan, and Abraham rescued him. We talked all about that in chapter 14. Well, now we know some things that have transpired. We know that Abram now has a son, Ishmael, and Ishmael is 13 years of age. And we know that so when you start adding that to that former time when, from the time they entered the land of promise, all that put together, you have Lot is probably now about 69, 70 years of age, nearly as we can figure. And maybe more importantly, one thing we do know is this has been about 20 years since Abraham and Lot were spending a lot of time together. So Lot has been in the Sodom area for about 20 years. Now, what's he doing there? I mean, Sodom was already attacked and destroyed. He already got out just by the hair of his chin, and now he's gone back there. It's almost like God delivered you from that, Lot, and now Lot is back in Sodom. And it's been 20 years. So that's where the story begins here. Look at verse number 17. So the guests that have visited Abraham are leaving. They're leaving the tent. They're going toward Sodom, and Abraham is walking with them, bringing them on their way. He's going to walk a certain distance with them. And the Lord said, "Shall I hide from Abraham that thing which I do? And seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. And for I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of the Lord to do justice and judgment, that the Lord may bring upon Abraham that which he hath spoken of him." So the Lord this is all for our benefit. The Lord is speaking out loud. He's not like, I don't know what to do. No, this is all for our benefit. And the conversation goes like this. Well, what should I do? Should I tell Abraham? I mean, I've given Abraham this covenant, and I know Abraham, and I know Abraham will teach it to his children. I know Abraham will guide his life by my principles, justice, and judgment. And so I need to tell him about what I'm doing with Sodom and Gomorrah, because I'm going to exercise justice and judgment. And we're going to learn now a lesson about God, about mercy, about grace, about justice, about judgment. And Abraham his character is going to be revealed a bit in the situation. So God is using this whole episode to teach us some things about himself, some things about the growth of Abraham. And honestly, this is Moses writing this story for the generation that's going to go into the promised land. And they need to learn some things about the way God views people that have repelled his word, that have received his grace and denied it, that are ripe and ready for judgment. And so God is using this at multiple levels, isn't he? And it says in verse number 20, and the Lord said, because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous, I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which has come unto me. And if not, I will know. So God is saying in a kind of an anthropomorphic way, in other words, from a human perspective, let me just go see if things are as bad as what I'm hearing about Sodom and Gomorrah, their wickedness. And the men turned their faces from thence and went toward Sodom, but Abraham stood before the Lord. So remember, there are three men. The Lord has said this to the two men. Shall I tell Abraham? Okay, I'm going to tell him. And now God and Abraham are there by themselves. And the two others, these angels that look like men, are heading down towards Sodom and Gomorrah. Get the story? And it says in verse number 23, and Abraham drew near and said, wilt thou also destroy the righteous with the wicked? So Abraham says, oh, God is going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, he's not denying that they are a wicked nation, wicked city-state, but because he says that. But are you going to destroy the righteous with the wicked? Is this going to be a wholesale destruction? Because I know somebody in Sodom. My nephew lives in Sodom, is what Abraham is thinking here. Peradventure there be 50 righteous within the city. Wilt thou also destroy and not spare the place for the 50 righteous that are therein? So he's arguing and saying, Lord, what if there is a remnant of righteous people there? Just 50 out of a big city. Would you destroy it? That be far from thee to do after this manner, to slay the righteous with the wicked, and that the righteous should be as the wicked, that be far from thee. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? Lord, my sense of justice and judgment would be that you would never do this. You wouldn't destroy the majority of wicked people, even for a minority of 50 righteous people. I know you wouldn't do that. Now remember, Abraham is not more righteous than God, and Abraham is not more gracious than God, but God is using this episode to show Abraham some things about himself and about his character. It's not like Abraham is talking God off the ledge, or Abraham is somehow saying, come on, God, chill out a little bit here. No, far be it from that. This is all a way by which God is helping Abraham to learn some things about himself and about God. And it says in verse number 26, and the Lord said, if I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sakes. And Abraham answered and said, behold now, I have taken upon me to speak unto the Lord, which am but dust and ashes. So Abraham says, I want to come to you humbly, and I understand my position. I understand that I have no leverage. I'm just a product of your creation. I'm nothing more than dust and ashes. But, verse 28, peradventure there shall lack 5 of the 50 righteous. Wilt thou destroy all the city for lack of 5? And he said, if I find there 40 and 5, I will not destroy it. So you see how Abraham says, well, 50, well, what about 45? And he said unto him, oh, let not the Lord be angry. I will speak. Peradventure there shall be 30. And the Lord said, I will not do it if I find 30. He said, behold, now I have taken upon me to speak unto the Lord. Peradventure there shall be 20 found there. He said, I will not destroy it for 20. He said, oh, let not the Lord be angry. I will speak yet but this once. I've got one last request. Peradventure 10 shall be found there. He said, I will not destroy it for 10's sake. And the Lord went his way as soon as he had left communing with Abraham, and Abraham returned unto his place. It's an interesting story. And of course, we know the rest of the story because we know that God does indeed destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And we know indeed that Lot was there. So all we can do is surmise as to why Abraham whittled it down to 10. And I think the most logical explanation is that Abraham was thinking about Lot's family. I mean, Lot had his wife, Lot had his daughters, Lot had married daughters and sons-in-law. And maybe Abraham was just assuming. I mean, certainly Lot has reached his own family. Certainly there are at least 10 righteous people in that city, certainly. And maybe he began the thinking of, well, Lot has had influence. We know that Lot is a leader in that city. We know that Lot was somebody whom King Bera of Sodom knew well. And so maybe Abraham's whole mindset was, Lot certainly has been salt and light. He certainly made a difference. But what we're going to find is that Lot not only did not make a difference, there were not 10 righteous in that city, but Lot had even lost his own family. And then I think there's something that we learn about the character of God, and that is that God is merciful, God is gracious, and God is willing to listen to intercession and to demonstrate mercy. But God's mercy does not negate God's justice. And if there is a turning to, God is willing to forgive and to forbear, as we see with even wicked places like Nineveh, where they repented and God did not judge them as he said he would. So all of those things are true at the same time. But what a sad ending to the story, that what seemed to be victory in the mind of Abraham as he went back, 10, Lot is safe now. Really, it was not true. And as we shall see, although Lot and his daughters escaped, what a sad story that Sodom was destroyed, Gomorrah was destroyed, Lot's wife was destroyed, Lot's married daughters were destroyed, Lot's sons-in-law were destroyed, any grandchildren were destroyed. What a sad and tragic ending, even though Abraham didn't anticipate it, to a man that was just enveloped by the world. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, obviously, as we delve into chapter number 19. But let's let that be a lesson for all of us, that our intercession for others does matter. And we ought to be interceding for the places where our loved ones live, and for our loved ones, and for our cities, and for our country, for sure. But also to understand that we deal with a God of mercy and a God of justice and judgment. And his character ought to be reflected in us as well. So that's it for today. We'll stop there at the end of chapter 18. We'll see you next episode. Until then, God bless you, my friends.